do? I hope you're doing fine, 'cause it's Q&A time again. Hello world, how's it going? Hope you guys are all doing great. If not, as always, I hope it gets better for you. So welcome to another Friday Night Live Q&A with your boy, me, LRB. Where you can sit and ask questions about keeping freshwater fish, shrimp, and plants, pretty much anything to do with freshwater aquariums. This lovely Friday night. Hope you all are doing well. Scoot you guys up here. And hello. And yeah, so as far as this week, finally getting some water changes done around the fish room. I'm happy, excited about that. And flip you over here. Last night I did knock this side out and this side. So if you remember last Friday, these were just full of algae, just pretty much taken over. Looked like, just did not look good at all. But now, a little algae picking, a little bit of water change, voila. Doesn't take much. The good thing about a dirty tank is you can always clean them, and this thing is super crooked. Oh well, makes it look like I'm on a hill. Anyways, but Candy Overhauls, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Telling me to get in live chat. You're the best, Candy. Thank you so much. Always with that reminder. What would I do without you? It would be the saddest day to have a live stream without you. But thank you, Candy. And Lars K, my buddy. Always great to see you in here, Lars. Thank you so much for the support and the $5 super chat as well. Thank you. And I want to thank everybody for your orders as well. You guys are keeping me busy. I really appreciate that. And I can't complain. So I want to thank you guys. And it is getting kind of hard to source heat packs. Man, it's been a mission trying to get those sourced. I think I finally found some. I'm doing my best not to raise any of the shipping. Right now I've kept it pretty low. I'm going to do my best to try to keep that low for you guys. But hopefully it gets better here with these heat packs. Which if I do, it'll only probably go up like $1 or $2 for shipping. But I want to thank you all for the support. And Dana Harris, my boy, thank you so much, Dana, for the $20 super chat. Says, fish room looks great, brother. Well, thank you, of course. I don't know. You know how it gets. When it's your own stuff, you know what it could really look like if you actually had more time to put into it. But that's starting to come with fruition. Now that I know, like I was hoping that Haley at Oddball Aquatics was going to come back and help me out. So I was kind of counting on that, and I kind of put it off a little bit. Like, okay, I'm going to have help here soon. Kept getting pushed. And now I'm just finally to the point, like, I'm going to have to do this myself. There's just no other way about it. And I'm actually glad for that, because now it's solidified in my mind that, okay, this is what I'm putting my time, energy into now, since I'm not going to be able to get help with it. And I do have it planned to where it's manageable. I did finally figure out a way that I could break it down into sections and make it more manageable within a 2-week cycle. And maybe I'll share that with you guys here someday. But thank you, Dana. I really appreciate it. I've been trying to work on it and do some things. Get back into it. But thank you. Hopes Aquatics, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. It says, hey, LRB, Leon Hope, aka Hopes Aquatics. I cannot wait for my package to arrive. So stoked to get your plants and the volcano guppies and the purple koi's. Ooh, you got some nice ones. You got the rares of the rares. So nice choices on those guppies. And yeah, I can't wait for you to get them either. You're going to absolutely love them. And thank you so much again for the support. So thank you, Hopes Aquatics. All right, let me try to get to some of your guys' questions here now. I appreciate all the support. Don't get me wrong at all. But I do want to be here for questions. See if I can speed read this fast enough. And if you do got a question, always throw question marks behind it. So far, I got no questions. Are you guys that good? Am I teaching you guys this well? Maybe I'll have to start getting into cichlids and Start learning about them. I gotta get some cichlid people in here. I always notice nobody asks me about cichlids. I always wait for that. Because I'm guessing y'all know I don't really know that much about cichlids or that strong with the cichlid suit. My boy Danikin, he knows this. He's in here. This is Danny and Ken is driving. Well, you guys be safe and hope you guys had a good trip from wherever you're coming from. I am in live chat. So if you do got that question, I'm at the bottom, still no question. P. Milner says, how are you doing, LRB? I'm doing well. I'm doing better. I'm always trying to do better. Let me just say that. And Chris Pinto, thank you so much for the super chat. Throwing down a $5 super chat. Says Brotato, hashtag Fish Jesus. Thank you, my man Chris. I appreciate you every time. You're the best, Brotato. What are the vines behind you? So these are actually Brazilian Pennywort. They're dried out. These are dried out right now because the air is real dry. Or sometimes this dehumidifier will start getting pointed at it and then it'll dry out the vines. See, there's some growing out there. But it's Brazilian Pennywort. This stuff grows pretty crazy. Like, it's grown all the way down and down out of there. I just pulled some out of that tank because it traveled all the way down to get into that tank. I actually got some that's traveled through here, just trying to get all the way over there. It's crazy how it vines around. And it's vined into the other tank. And then the other, like, stocky one, this is Hygrophila angustifolia. That's more of like a tree-like, not as viney. Pretty neat plant, though. I sell the Brazilian Pennywort. I don't have the angustifolia on site, though. I guess I should probably add it someday, but I don't know. I'd be selling dry stalks because most of that it's actually grown up out of the water. That's why I don't sell it. It'd be kind of weird to sell. And you get that guy as buddy. I got a buddy that looks just like him upstairs. What I'd love to do with this tank is get a light, one of those inside the rim lights. That way it would actually shine down in there. So I'd have the light on top, but then I'd also have the light in here so you could actually see what was going on in the tank more. I think that would display it a lot better to have an aquarium like that. You may need to mist them, probably, but you know what? I'm just letting Mother Nature take its course, doing its thing, it's doing its thing. I don't have time to mist because I've got so many chores within my fish room. I mean, this is one section of 7. So I've got enough to do in here to keep me busy that adding like little chores like misting every day or every other day is just, becomes a little difficult. Boop. A little sneaky peek of that. Boom. I gotta scrape the glass on this one. I got BBA growing all over. BBA spores all over the glass of that. I'll chop all that up. All right. Now let's see if you guys got any questions. Topped Eco Complete with sand, wet hands. That'll do it. And that's a good combo. I like the Eco Complete topped with sand myself. Lucas, need any tips for breeding 2-year-old bristlenose plecos? A lot of the times it could be the diet and just having enough territory. Caves also make a huge difference with their comfortability. Also less disturbance, so the more wild you make them. Rock piles, they're great for breeding out the bristlenose. Like they'll community breed in here just mostly due to these rock piles. What'll happen is they'll dig caves in between them through the sand or gravel or whatever you have, even if you don't have one of those fancy bristlenose caves. But if you do want to kind of like control breed the bristlenose, those caves are nice because you can grab the clutches from them a lot easier than just letting it do it naturally. But say you got a decent sized tank with some bristlenose, which you need mostly surface area, not so much volume, which volume never hurts. But as long as you got enough surface area where the babies can get away to, and get into the little cracks and crevices of the rock piles, then the babies can have a higher chance of surviving and just finding stuff to eat. I keep mine with a bunch of shrimp too. That may help. Carolyn MC, thank you so much for the $15 super chat. Says, I have a question about my swords and Java fern. Here, let me turn around here. I have questions about my swords and Java ferns. Leaves get a lot of black on them, algae lacking nutrients, or a mystery. Thank you. So if they're getting black on them, let me see if I can find an example. It's just necrosis. So it's either getting burnt out. Let me flip you over. Because like on this Brazilian Pennywort, there's some black on that leaf. Same with, I think I got some Java fern over here that may have the same results. But usually what it is a leaf dying off. Which either at some point in time is lacking nutrients or is lacking something that made that leaf or section die off, or maybe it was just its age. I'm not really sure if leaves have a certain time frame that they stay alive, because like this bush, for instance, it's shedding. It's constantly shedding all over the place. There's like almost a layer of dirt on the in-between of this trim just from leaves shedding. So it's just a natural process for trees and plants to shed off. So it could just be drying out, shedding, and regenerating differently, like changing its plan of course. As long as you're seeing new growth, then you'll be good. If you're not seeing any new growth, then that's when it really becomes problematic. That means that the plant is obviously not getting anything that it needs. But if you're seeing new growth, then it could just be the cycle of the leaf material and all of that. And the best thing to do with that is to discard it and trim it off and get rid of it out of the tank. Just to help with algae, because if you leave it in your aquarium, then that actually promotes a lot of algae, because algae will start growing on it and breaking it down. But hopefully that helps you out. And same with sword plants, especially swords. If you just buy them from a fish store, or just most farm sold sword plants are grown up out of water, so they will all die off. The leaves will all die off, and then the new growth will start coming from the middle. So it has to go through a transition period. Hopefully that helps you, and thank you so much, Carolyn, for the awesome super chat. Wild Bear Cat TV, how long will it take for these blue dreams I ordered to start coming out? They've been hiding nonstop since I put them in they're just in a guppy 10-gallon breeder tank. So if they're in with guppies, that's probably a big reason why they're hiding right now. Hopefully, obviously you've got hiding spots for them. So what may be happening is they're living in that hiding spot and could be breeding. So eventually they'll start coming out, and then as they colonize, you'll see them start taking over. It just takes some time. And if you got guppies in there, of course they're going to want to hide, because they got wild guppies in there. That guppies are mouthy fish, so they're constantly trying to mouth at the shrimp. They're going to want to hide from that. If those guppies weren't in there, you'd have a different behavior out of the shrimp for sure. But eventually, they will start breeding out and start coming out. It depends on your hiding spots too. If you got nice rock piles, you'll be all right. But there is a chance too that the babies may not know better and they could get eaten by the guppies. So it all depends on how that system setup is. So if you don't have a lot of little rock piles, I would definitely recommend putting lots of little rock piles in there for breeding, if you're trying to do it with guppies. It's not always easiest to accomplish guppies and shrimp together, but it's not impossible. Actually, for instance, I've got dwarf neon rainbow fish here, which rainbow fish, I mean, they can be mouthy like guppies too, but you see how many orange shrimp are in here. But since I have a rock pile like this, I just put this driftwood in here too, so they're all crazy about it right now. They were all over the guppy grass, but even with these guys, let's see, they have tinier mouths. Of course, they can't fit, but as they're small, they stay in there. Like the shrimp get wise onto the behavior of the fish, so they're gonna react accordingly to them. Are the half red black guppies still on the site? No, they're actually off. I am out of those for some reason. I have like a bazillion females and no males. Bottom Dwellers Aquatics, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. Says, do you have mosses for sale? I do have mosses. I have lots of mosses for sale. Regina Falange, thank you so, or glad to see you here, Regina. Says, hi there, I hope you and your family are well. I just picked up a couple adult Madagascar Rainbows, 4 inches. How long do they live? Oh, that's sweet. Gotta love those. That's a great topwater fish. Oh man, these guys are really shining. I don't know exactly how long they live, to be honest. I would think that's a Google question. I really don't know. I really don't know. I feel like I should know, but I don't. So if anybody else knows, hopefully we can help you out. Rohan J says, my bigger live bear gasping at the surface, but when I increase the water flow, the Java moss suffers. Any tips? So the guppies actually sometimes, well, here's the guppy tank. They love to be at the surface and gulp at it. It's mostly to eat off the biofilm. It's not so much an air thing. None of my guppy tanks, inler tanks, none of these have any air pumps. You see no air lines. You see no filtration. These are just all natural. And these guppies will just mouth the top of the water all the time, either getting at the biofilm, or if you see like she is struggling and having issues, there could either be a problem with pregnancy, there could be either she ate too much, could be a swim bladder problem, it can be a sort of things. But definitely your airflow is not going to be the issue. And yeah, water flow, airflow can mess with your Java moss. Mosses especially, they love to not be disturbed. Plants like to not to be disturbed. Unless you got like a nice wave on them. Has to be done right. I came up with actually a really good way to redo the whole air filter thing that creates waves and whatnot. I just need to get a 3D printer or somebody who deals with 3D printers. And maybe make that thing happen. Oh, for real, Limey? We'll check you out. Let me take a picture of this. That'll remind me. But we'll get you taken care of, Limey. I'm not sure what's going on. I hate stupid people. Thank you so much for the $2 super chat. Thank you, thank you. Kevin Long says, got shrimp, reds and blues weren't active, but orange and yellows haven't. All are hiding right now, haven't colored up yet. I'm not sure when you got them. They should color up. Should have already had them for a while now, because I thought we sent that out last week. Red and blues were active, but orange and yellows haven't, all hiding. Yeah, they're probably, and another thing too, and I hear this a lot, is when people first get shrimp and they just put them in their aquariums and then they can't see them, they just start disappearing. It's very common because they're freaked out. They just spent so long in a bag. And shrimp aren't as mindless as us people would think they would be. They're actually a lot more intelligent than you would think. Very common to like an ant. And Janice Lundberg, thank you so much for becoming a member, Janice. I really appreciate it. And definitely the tetracolor tropical granules, that always helps bring them out. Now, I'm not bought by them, but it's something about those tropical granules, they'll always come out for those. And it's funny, when I show you guys the videos often too, like you guys see them in a pile, sometimes I bait them to come up to the front of the glass so you can see them. But usually when they're not baited up to the front of the glass, they're all over the place. It looks like there's hardly anything in there. The reason why you saw all those orange shrimp over there on that piece of wood is I just literally put that piece of wood in there today from another tank. So they're just going through it and scavenging and cleaning pretty much everything off of it. So it's like a sweet treat to them right now. So there are some optical illusions when it comes to aquarium keeping and what we film, and often what we see directly in a short vision is what we'll take as a long vision, but it's not always the true whole, if that makes any sense. Euclid, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. I appreciate it, Euclid. Says my favorite aquarium related YouTuber, keep on being you. Well, thank you so much, Euclid. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Curtis Schindler, what's your favorite color shrimp? I'm about to start my first shrimp tank and can't choose a color. Ooh, that's a tough one. And I definitely can't choose your color for you. You have to choose your own color because everybody has different favorite colors. I'm partial for like green and blue fish. But when it comes to the shrimp, I don't know. The oranges are pretty hot. Like as far as like the way they pop within the tank and everything. But then yellows have their own pop to them. The reds have their own pop to them. A lot of it too, whenever you think about keeping your shrimp or getting a shrimp or what color you should get, think about your shrimp setup as well. And fin wiggles, good idea. Scriddles, there's also scriddles you can get too, where you can have the whole color of the rainbow. And a lot of people used to tell you not to do it. You can muddy them up in with a bunch of browns or whatever, and that's not entirely true. You can actually create a lot of different colors and do a lot of cool stuff. Matter of fact, I've shown this throughout my channel plenty of times. But yeah, think about the contrast of your tank, the tank they're going into, what they're gonna look like whenever you put them in there. Because also with the shrimp, sometimes they'll try to camouflage themselves into your substrate or whatever. So with like the reds, I'll do a black substrate because they're gonna really pop with that red against that black. Opposed to like red against sand, they're gonna try to blend into that. And it just won't pop as much. And Camantha, that's a cool name. Camantha Norland, thank you so much for becoming a member. I appreciate it. I gotta get my water. So thirsty. Let's see. And sorry if I'm missing any of your guys' questions. Obviously, it's not that easy to speed read through all this. But I am doing my best. I'm going to try to stay at the bottom too. That way I know for those people who are still in here. Nothing worse than answering somebody's question when they're not in here anymore. Zelth Ernid, Lucas, do you worry about bad bacteria that could cause fish TB? It can happen, and it has happened to me, and you could actually fight bad bacteria with good bacteria. So if I ever see any like of those cases, which I haven't seen in a long time, ever since I started battling those sorts of cases with good bacteria. And when I say what I'll do with that is I'll get some type of foam media from a filter or a power head or something like that and squeeze all that dirty moldy stuff into an aquarium that has a problem with bad bacteria, and that can actually counterbalance that. Now after you do that, you're going to want to do that, and I would probably do that wait a day, do a water change, because dilution's always the solution, and it never hurts to re-beneficial bacteria that new water after that water change, so you're just kind of cycling in new good beneficial bacteria that counterbalances all that negative bacteria. If that makes any sense for you guys. It's kind of a different approach to go about it than trying to dump a bunch of meds and whatnot in there. It's a lot more easier on your fish, that's for sure. Phoebe at Jeff Rose Fish Keeping. Throw me off with that logo, Phoebe. But thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Says maybe Jeff and I will get to see that fish room in person. He speaks highly on you. Yeah, I briefly got to meet him at the Aquashella. I wish I would have had more time to chat with him, but it was cool to meet him when I did meet him. And hopefully all this stuff gets back to normal where we can go visit each other and all that stuff. That would be great. But definitely glad to see Jeff Rose and you around. For sure. And thank you so much for the support and the super chat. Scrolling. Kevin Long says, you suggested putting blues with a sand substrate, thought right? I would think that is the opposite colors. Yeah, you would think that would be the opposite color. Like they would try to like dull out the blue, but you can't dull out the blues in the Blue Dream shrimp. But for some reason with the black substrate, with that dark blue with that black contrast, it kind of makes it harder to see them. Now, if they were a lighter blue, like a blue velvet or something, it'd be a different story. I would go with the black substrate on a blue velvet because it's going to pop more on that. Blue Dreams will actually try to go black spotted if you put them on a black substrate. They'll try to create more black pigment within their genes as time goes on to better camouflage themselves on a black substrate, because they'll try to blend to it. But on sand, they don't have any genetic capability to dull themselves, so they're forced to just pop that blue. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird, the whole genetics of what they can camouflage against and what they can't, depending on the color. Tanner Stenso says, how quick can you cycle a tank with established spun? Pretty much instantly. I've done it instantly. I always recommend giving it an hour or a couple hours before adding your fish, but you can't do it instantly. I just recommend, if you do want to do it instantly too, the best thing to do is squeeze that sponge in there and then kind of swirl the water around. And of course, let the water quit swirling around or stop it with your hand from swirling. And that way the tank's at peace and it ain't all crazy when you throw your fish or shrimp in there. But yeah, you can pretty much do it instantly as long as you get it through the water column. But if you do wait a couple hours, it just helps season it more. Better be some booze in that cup. It's just water. I've been drinking a lot of water lately. I was drinking way too much pop. It was just not good for me. It had me so dehydrated, had me so tired. I'm forcing myself to drink a lot of pop lately. Holy shitoli. My goodness, what in the world? Holy crap, I cannot believe that. What? Is that for real? My God, is that you, Corey? Holy cow. Holy cow. Aquarium Co-op dropping $500 super chat. My guy. My goodness. Holy moly. Wow. Wow, dude. That's huge. That is a big thank you, my brother. Oh my God. Wow. I don't even know what to say. Whew. Oof, my face is red for sure now. That is amazing. Corey, thank you. Aquarium Co-op, thank you. Aquarium Co-op has been a huge pivotal part actually within my channel. As I first started, like, as many of you guys know, it's not easy to get started on this platform with YouTube, and Corey really opened up the door for me by doing a fish room tour. And I've always been grateful and loyal to him for that. And he's just he's an amazing human being. Like, if you really get to know Corey, and he's a great guy. I could never thank him enough for everything he's done for me. He used to put me on his things. He would have like these contests through this Gleam IO too, where if you subscribe and all this, he's helped so many people out in this YouTube thing. Corey, thank you. You're amazing. I can never tell you enough how amazing you are. But thank you, Corey. And your new fish room thing. If you guys haven't been over to Aquarium Co-op for a while, or haven't even been there at all, go check it out. You think he's building some crazy fish room that is just going to be absolutely phenomenal. It's already looking very, very beautiful. And hopefully one day I get to come check that out. That'd be amazing. But Corey, thank you. Wow. And Andrew Morris, thank you for your super chat as well, Andrew. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. And Ted K says, hello, my friend. Is green water a real problem for fish, or should I really do something about it? I have this one tank that all I have is sponge filter, and I do water changes every couple days. So what I would do, and if you're keep getting green water from that situation, is what you're actually doing is feeding that green water even more, because it loves hydrogen molecules. It's not bad for fish, and it actually helps balance your aquarium from being toxic for fish. So it is kind of playing its role. You more than likely have way too much nutrients and way too much light within your system, and dilution is the solution to that. But the thing is, if you do it too frequently, especially with green water, is all that reoxygenation from that fresh water is bringing in a lot of hydrogen molecules for that green water to eat, especially if you got harder water. And what I would recommend is to lower the light level. If you're ferting, to slow down on the ferts. If you don't have many plants in there, definitely put more plants in there to absorb whatever nutrients are in there. Something like a pearlweed or moss or guppy grass, Brazilian Pennywort, something like that to help absorb all those nutrients, or even create a canopy to help dull the light. Sometimes I'll use, as this situation here, I used to fight green water in this all the time. But now that I have a canopy of plants on the top, I never get green water. They're constantly, it's eating all the nutrients it can out from it. Like this was the biggest battle green water tank I've had for a real long time. But eventually it settled by the nutrients being eaten up by the plants. So maybe try to hit it with a couple of those factors, taking out the light. And I would go with a weekly water change. Still, like, stick on that routine weekly water change. Actually, I've had tanks lose their green water from doing no water changes. This is actually a great example, and I've never actually showed this on my channel, so I'm gonna get up and show it to you guys. So here's like a barely green water tank. I just did some water changes. It's more than likely gonna pop back to green in like 2-3 days because all the oxygenation and whatnot, and I don't have enough faster growing plants to absorb that. If I wanted to fix that, I'd throw in like some of this pearlweed here or some other plant. But here in the utility room, I've got a green water tank. This I haven't changed in months. So you can see it's this one in the middle. This thing, if you guys, I don't know, those who follow me may have seen this, where this tank has always been green for me for some reason. That one was really thick with green. This one's starting to die off, but the green water actually just died off without water changes because it could be because it's low oxygen level. But even with the guppies and the respiration, I don't know how that all works with science. But for some reason, it's not green anymore. So now that all that has been eaten up, now when I do go do the water changes, then I probably shouldn't have the same issues. It should have cycled through the detoxifying of whatever was excess in that aquarium. Which is, it's kind of neat. Kind of neat. But my gosh, Corey. Oh, I love Aquarium Co-op. You guys are the best. Yeah, absolutely made my day. That thing is just sticking right up there too. All right, let's get back to these questions. Yeah, a little field trip to kind of give you a visual It's a lot easier to do this stuff in the fish room too, when we actually got examples instead of me just spouting my mouth. Silent Aroma, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Really appreciate it, Silent Aroma. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I Hate Stupid People says, have you ever had to deal with blue-green algae? Having issues getting it out of a 10-gallon. So I have had it like maybe 1 or 2 times. It's not very common for me, and I actually got it from someone else, so it doesn't come through my water source. I know some people's water sources, sometimes they'll come through, but it's actually a bacteria, not an algae. So if you get General Cure, it can actually help fix that. And I believe Aquarium Co-op sells General Cure on their website. That's the least I could do for you, Corey. But if you are looking for API General Cure, go check him out. And that should take care of your blue-green algae. And he's got a video on that too. He actually used that, I believe. Jeff Rose Fish Keeping says, it is going great. How's the kiddo doing? Oh, must be talking to somebody else. I just saw that question mark. What plant on your website would you say is the easiest? Any plant on my website right now is the absolute easiest plant that you can keep. That really doesn't need hardly any maintenance, if any. So pretty much everything that I've kept in here throughout this whole year has been completely neglected big time. But it still grows, it still does its thing, and they're all super easy on my site right now. And once again, sorry if I'm missing your guys' questions. Finn Wiggles, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Says, help, my snails, only 3 bladder snails implanted. Thriving inler 20-gallon, egg sacs everywhere, but the population isn't increasing. H2O is softy. So yeah, that could be problematic when you have snails at a young age and they have tender snail shells when they're first born. If they're not getting a lot of calcium and that acidity gets through them, then you're not going to have many survive, unfortunately. So the best thing you can do is harden it up with either some crushed coral or get some GH booster. Crushed coral really helps because they can graze on that as well. So it's like a constant additive, opposed to always having to add the GH booster, which sometimes, depending on your substrate, they can't quite eat or get to. It just ends up getting into the water column as the acidity breaks it up. And then food also helps too. Sometimes with the guppies, they'll eat too much, and it's really hard to populate bladder snails, especially in a guppy tank as well, because once again, guppies are super mouthy, tiny little snacks. Those little baby shrimp or snails will look like to them. So that could be a reason too. Eric Wong, LRB, can you speak on sexing Exodons? I believe they're like regular tetras where the males are small and then the females are the bigger ones, but they both look pretty much the same. If there's any like some kind of like, oh, the anal fin is shorter or something like that, I don't really know that. But I do believe that the males are the smaller ones and the females are the bigger ones. Bigger, plumper ones. Rohan J, we want cherry shrimp as red as Lucas, right? I bet my face got real red at that moment. That was absolutely amazing. Juan Jose Montero says, do you have any recommendations for dry start with seeds? I'm not a big fan of that method myself. I've just never had the patience. You can do cool things with it, but at the same time, you also run a risk of your plants later on going through a transitional period to where it looks good for like the first however so long, like week or month or whatever, but then the plant has to transition into its immersed form, which you'll see a cycle through that. So I've never been a real big fan of that. But if you are going to go for it, like HC does all right with it. But yeah, just keep it topped off, like saran wrap or something over the top. That way it stays humid in there. Spray it. I would spray it once a day. Don't overspray it, but give it a decent spray. That way you have to hit it every day, but not hitting it every day with like too much. Because when you open it up each day, you're going to get that re-oxygenation of the atmosphere for it. So you don't get stale air. If you don't get into it like every day and like missed it or something like that, then you will possibly start growing molds and funguses and other things you don't want to grow. Man, that's a really hard name. Jean Francos. I think I'd have to have an accent to actually pronounce that name, but I will hit up your question. It says, I found CPD fry left in my quarantine tank. How do I clean, gravel vac, or even filter a tank with such small fry? You don't. I wouldn't. Best thing to do is shut your filter off. Shut anything off. Let that tank go full dirty. And then those little tiny fry can actually eat off all the little microorganisms that'll end up living in there. That's what I do with mine. Tony Romanai says, what are the fish in the 10-gallon above your head to the right? I always see them lying around. 10-gallon above? You mean up above here? Where I'm at? 10-gallon. I don't know. There's endlers over there. Fish laying around. You got some lazy fish. 10-gallon. I don't know which tank you're talking about. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna scroll down to the bottom here if you guys are still in here and answer your questions. Once again, sorry if I miss them. What media do you use for microworms? When I used to do them, used to use just oatmeal. Oatmeal and yeast. Matt Riddles asks, can you recommend a good small power head for tanks under 20 gallon? Under a 20 gallon? A power head for that? I know they make small enough pumps, and you can get fountain pumps as well. Sometimes they'll sell the little fountain pumps cheaper than they'll sell the aquarium pumps. So that's something to always check into when buying any sort of pump. Always check the fountain pump prices. But besides that, I usually get the Odysseas, which they have like the X250, X350. But those are all too big for a 20 gallon if you ask me. You want something that barely moves. And if I were to put a pump into a 20 gallon, what I would do, so I'd do something like this, but it's not the same program. I'm actually using this to get water up and out. But what I would do is I would lay the power head down like that. And the reason why I like the Odysseas is because you can get these sponge attachments to them. But what I would do is I would point that power head up towards the top of the water. I want to put it across, especially in a 20 gallon. So what you'll get is an upflow water, so you get a constant circulation like this, instead of just like slamming motions around the ends like that. You'll get a lot better results out of putting your power head directed up towards the top, especially with plant growth, for sure. Chris Pinto, thank you again for the support and super chat, throwing down to $5. Says, had a moss ball break apart a while ago in one of my tanks. Now it's in my Java moss. Any idea how to get rid of it without losing my Java moss? So yes, those moss balls, if you're talking about like a Marimo ball, those are actually cladophora algae that are pretty much rolled up and grown that way. That's why you constantly have to spin them to kind of get the look, get them to keep that look, because if not, they'll spread out. I had this happen to me when I was first starting this channel in a yellow neo Caridina tank, and it actually ended up spreading out. Makes a really beautiful carpet. A lot of people have offered to buy that moss off of me, or that algae off of me, because it does make a really nice low carpet, like a turf kind of carpet. It's like pretty much take this carpet and add it into your aquarium kind of like look. So it all depends. If you want to get it out of your Java moss, what'll end up happening is either it's going to eat off the mold that's around the Java moss, and then the Java moss will grow away from it. Or sometimes they'll grow in tufts, so you can either pull the tufts out. That's a good thing about Cladophora algae is it does stay compact, so it's a lot easier to remove. I wish I could take you back to the tank, but it's like in the belly of the beast, and we have a high chance of losing the internet in there to show you, because the tank's still like that, but I'm growing Taiwan moss in there as well. So you have like this carpeted Cladophora moss ball, old moss ball growth from like years ago, from where it just flattened out. But then you have all this beautiful moss growing on top of it. It's actually really neat after it settles through. So I want to freak out about it, that's for sure. But do what you can, like to pick it here and there. And then also water changes will help with that, because the water changes will help with the growth of your moss, and the healthier your moss is, the healthier its immunity is to fight the algae from attaching itself to the moss. So its fronds will be nice and strong, and it won't be as susceptible as holding the algae, and the algae will actually just sit on top of the moss opposed to being attached to it, if that makes sense. See, any experience with keeping scuds? Yes, I've had lots of experience with scuds, and great food source for a fish tank, and they are absolute amazing aquarium cleaners. So when it comes to bioorganics growing or breaking down in your aquariums, especially like leaf litter and stuff like that, scuds are amazing for that. Now they can get a healthy appetite for certain plants like guppy grass and stuff like that. They could absolutely just eat through it. I had this scud tank back in the day where I treated it like a compost tank. So I was throwing orange peels in there, banana peels, freaking bananas, onions, celery. I had celery floating and growing in this tank. It was absolutely insane. I just wanted to see like how dirty could you really treat a tank, to like just letting Mother Nature do its thing, just like tossing all kinds of stuff in it. And it was actually a really, really cool project, and I learned a lot from it. Because not only was I growing celery in an aquarium at some point, I also had baby fry, rainbow fry living in there. I had shrimp living in there, scuds going gangbusters. It was a neat tank. It's actually in one of my earlier videos. My show and tell is the second show and tell video. Like the video is total cringe. Like the beginning of it is total cringe, but if you get through that into the actual tank, it's actually an interesting video. That was back then when YouTube was different than what it is now, and I was still learning about YouTube and like how to even conduct myself here. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. Show and tell episode 2. It's that compost tank. Dana Ken Aquatics, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Appreciate the support. Danny and Ken, thank you, thank you. Says, and you helped my channel out with a fish room tour, bro. Well, I am glad to do so too. That's just like paying it forward. Like Corey from Aquarium Co-op, I mean, as he introduced me in as well, like I want to do the same. Like people like Corey inspire other people to do great things. So we're all here to help in this fish family, that's for sure. And if you're not, then hopefully one day you start seeing the light and you all come together, because unity is what humanity needs more than anything right now. And higher consciousness will always prevail overall. So I want to thank you all for the support, because we could not do it without any of us. We probably could, but would it be as fun? No, not at all. But thank you, thank you, thank you, Danny and Ken. Lana says, I can't get rid of string hair algae in my planted cherry shrimp tanks. Lights on timers for 8 hours, any suggestions? So I would raise your light up if possible. I don't know if there's any way you could dim it, but maybe try to get a top growing plant to help break the power up of it. String algae is often always caused by too much light and too many nutrients, and also wood and like bigger rocks are always prone to growing algae on them, just because the calcium will either build up on them, or detritus will build up on them, and then the algae will start eating off that. So sometimes rotating rocks can help. So get rid of all the string algae you can. Flip your rocks if you have to, if they've got like this crust of algae bio on top of them or whatever. If you flip them over, that'll get rid of them. You'll have a nice new fresh looking rock. Then do your water change as soon as you pull all that algae out, and then you should be back to go. Because literally, like these tanks, this was even today, before I did this today, this was absolutely covered. This thing was nothing but string algae. Like there was nowhere for these fish to go. You can see the plant's still a little rough on the edges on some of them, but they are still growing. But as soon as I pulled that string algae out, did my water change, this is what it looks like now. Same thing with this. You can see some resemblance still in here. But you see the air bubbles in there? The oxygenation of the water changes actually help break up that string algae. Not only that, it helps dilute the excess nutrients as well. So it'll help balance your aquarium accordingly. Now, many plants do prefer softer water. So this is when it gets tougher with harder water. And if you look up on the sides of this glass, you got the harder water buildup. Same here, where you get harder water buildup, and you see how algae loves to cling to that greener? That's actually green, not the glass color. So it'll actually cling to that, and it'll start growing string algae out of that as well. But as long as you're maintaining your water changes normally, it shouldn't start growing too much. Because if you keep feeding these guys, you don't dilute the water, then their waste breaks down, it becomes into nutrients as well, and that's what the algae will start eating off of. But the more you dilute that, the more it'll help fix that. So, and then again with this, like next round, say next week, I want to do it like the day after, but next week I'm going to just start pulling more of this out. Then eventually there's going to be nothing by at least the third week if you're doing a weekly water change. Or you can even do a bi-weekly. Because you got to think, when you throw food in there too, that food is actually adding nutrients into your water as well. So everything that you throw in that aquarium has some kind of additive or function within that water volume. And when you can think about it that way, then you can better understand on where your excess nutrients are coming from, and then you can help balance the too little or too much nutrients. Boom, 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 boom. Kevin Collis, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Says, love your live streams. Well, thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate it. I'm just happy to be here for you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Chris Pinto, thank you again for the $5 super chat again with the hashtag Fish Jesus. Thank you, Chris, bro. You're the best. You guys are always so supportive. Never, never, never show you guys enough appreciation. And hopefully I get this fish room back in order. And yeah, we'll do some more bigger things, because I do got things on the list. I've just got to get grinding to it more and more and more. I got to whip in my discipline. Finn Wiggles, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Says, what do you call someone who buys and sells shrimp? A prawn broker. He. Very nice, very nice. That's a good one. I have not heard that one before, but thank you, Finn Wiggles, for the joke and the $5 super chat. Thank you, thank you. Let's see. Scrolling for them questions, and I am towards the bottom here because I do not see any questions right above. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. Michael Bola says, just bought some moss and rotalia from your store. Thank you. I'll definitely be putting in another order tonight because I wasn't aware of the quantity I'd get for that amount I paid. Well, thank you for your support and your order. I really appreciate it. Krista Nursey says, how can I get my Java moss to grow thicker? Water changes, heavier mineralized water changes. A lot of mosses, like your, well, I don't want to say this entirely, but they do like calcium. They do like the mineralization of harder water. There are some mosses out there that are finicky with hard water, but for the most part, like your Taiwan moss, your Pilo moss, Christmas mosses, they all do good with the mineralization, and then the reoxygenation of the water changes always help with their growth. Now, the trick part with moss when you're doing water changes is sometimes they want to float away and they get disturbed and they may roll over. Always be aware of that, because if it does get disturbed a lot, then it'll grow funny, and then that's when algae starts playing a role. But if it's just sitting and chilling and you can get that moss just to sit there, as you keep doing those water changes, they'll grow thicker and thicker. And actually less light with mosses is better than more light. Another reason why people get algae with their moss often is just they put too much light on moss. So, and you know, Java moss normally grows kind of stringy, so. And the more you pick at it as well, the more compact it'll grow. That's another way you can get it to grow thicker. Kind of like scaping any tree, bush, plant. The more you cut at it, the more dense it'll grow. Regina Flange, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Says, thank you for all you do. My LFS manager is retiring and moving away. I'm heartbroken. Oh no. That's unfortunate. Sounds like you had a bond with him. That's sad. But hopefully it gets better for you. Hopefully the store's not closing and the store's still there. But if not, we're always here for you on Friday nights. But thank you for the $5 super chat. I appreciate it. And mainly Bettas, thank you so much for the $5 super chat and the support. It says, USPS lost a package you sent me and Miss LRB is the best. Took care of it, no questions, absolutely 1000% appreciate it. You both rock 100. Well, thank you mainly, Bettas, for your $5 super chat and your support, and I'm glad we got you taken care of. It is unfortunate, sometimes those things happen. We can't control USPS, and we do our best to make sure everybody is happy and they get what they're trying to get. That's our #1 goal. And Paul Nerlich, thank you so much for your $5 super chat, Paul. Says, long time listener, first time listening live, love the streams. When are neon rainbow fish ready to breed, and should I separate pairs? If you really want to breed them out, I would separate them out in pairs. You get more that way. And as far as like when they're ready to breed, if you start seeing the male show any like color within his head, you'll see the behavior in him. What will happen is the male will like kind of go at an angle and kind of like flare and fin towards like the female, and he'll get this like little stripe on his head. As long as they're doing that kind of behavior, then they're ready to breed. That's like they're about to get down. And I was trying to see if mine are doing it up here. They're doing it a little bit, but it's kind of hard to tell with the chasing. It's not enough to actually give you a good example. But yeah, as long as they're showing the behavior, then they should be ready. And you can colony breed those as well, so you don't technically, if you got enough coverage, you don't really have to worry about getting spawning mobs or pulling the eggs or anything like that. They will actually just start having babies within their system. And you can either pull the babies out, or you can just let it continuously go. I've had it to points where it's just like, it becomes a factory at some point where they're just like pushing out so many babies, it's crazy. Jeff Rose Fish Keeping, thank you so much for the $5 super chat, Jeff Rose. And glad to see you in here, bro. Says, you got any super cool fish on your website for sale? Wanting something I've never kept before. Right now it's mostly guppies. There's not a whole lot of anything else besides guppies and antlers at this point on the website. Just because I haven't been actively breeding a lot of the fish I should be actively breeding. And also I haven't been getting much for new blood as far as like new fish and new types like I used to be able to traveling around everywhere. Kind of really miss that. I was actually thinking about that a lot today. Just like how I need to like, because I mean, nothing wrong with local fish stores, box stores, and the fish that are in there. They have some really cool fish. But you know, like once you went through all those types of fish, you're always looking for that one that's like, ooh, I've never seen that before. And the only time I've ever really got to that, especially like the last year before all this happened, was when I went to all the clubs and other people's fish rooms where they always had this like, wow, you ain't never seen it fish. So I don't know, I'm still kind of waiting for some of those myself. I do need to get some of these rainbow fish going though, but that's really about the only thing I'm holding on to. Like CPDs, Synodontis cats, we all kept those, and I don't know. I'm looking for some myself, it sounds like, Jeff Rose. So if you know, then let me know. But thank you so much for the support and super chat. Peplin Creek Aquatics, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Says Candy Overhauls Fish Fam MVP. Thank your mods. Indeed, I could never thank Candy enough. I hope she knows she is loved. Because she is. And Ab Shoelace, thank you so much for the $5 super chat and the support. Says, I have a 1 month-old Apisto female who stays very low to the ground, never rising above a 1/4 inch. Shy behavior, or does she have a swimming issue? Could be a possible swimming issue or something genetic, because as the pistos are grown in clutches, you get stronger ones and you get weaker ones. It's kind of like angelfish as well. It's kind of wild how that really works. Like you'll have the runts of the family. So sometimes when they are the runts, then they can have either swim bladder issues or other problems within themselves. Or it could be shy behavior. The best way to test if it is shy behavior is to try to get a floating plant. Because if you can get something to cover the top, it will give it a sense of security. It doesn't have to worry about something coming over the top of it so much, and then it will be more likely to come out of its hidey hole. Steve Topper, so I don't know, hopefully that helps or figures something out for you. Steve Topper says, are you open to shipping other than USPS? My order and replacements didn't survive. Took 5 days and 7 days for replacements. That's insane. I would like to know where you're at if you're in the country, because 7 days is absolutely insanity for a shipment, which we haven't seen that, if ever. Unfortunately, okay, so let me flip you over. So we can do the priority, but I can't do anything else than USPS because they've always handled it the best, and I trust their facilities the most. And to change the process as well would be a lot of work for me too. But we can't offer the priority. That sucks to hear that. Scrolling. Oh wow, you guys got me well over the hour mark here. I'm gonna have to get to feeding these fish. You guys just keep throwing money at me. It's hard to see that time clock. But my God, you guys have been absolutely amazing. And hold on, I want to hit this question here. Cat Pal says, my yellow neos all have gone paler lately. Still are healthy and breeding, but color isn't vibrant. Blues in a separate tank. Similar parameters are vibrant. Any tips? So if your yellows are against sand, they will naturally try to go paler. Best to try to put them against a dark color. They will darken up more. Yellows are really quick about how they can change their camouflage and color to contrast in an aquarium. And also, I don't know if it's the tetracolor tropical granules, they do have color enhancement that can help with the color and vibrancy of your shrimp as well. And also, I'm not 100% convinced that, I don't know, sometimes it seems like males will be darker at some point and then they'll get lighter at some point. So I don't know if there's like a phase through the day, or like say they just got done doing the deed, maybe they're getting a little faint and they lose some color. I don't know if that's the case, because almost it feels like that, because the females always keep their color. The males, it seems like they'll transition time to like being like a nice red or a nice yellow, and then vice versa by going paler. I noticed that the reds and the yellows do that quite a bit. So hopefully that helps. Michelle and Casey, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Michelle and Casey, that is awesome of you. Says, how can I get rid of black algae? So black algae can be a pain to get rid of sometimes. Usually happens in low oxygen situations. So frequent keeping a water change routine will definitely help with that. But the manual removal, scrape whatever you can off the glass. Try to get what you can off your objects. Hydrogen peroxide, you can dip your objects, whether they be rock or wood, within hydrogen peroxide, or you can spritz it. Say like there was black algae in here and the wood would be exposed if I dropped the water line. Sometimes you could treat it that way. But I like to use the hydrogen peroxide to kill it. You do have to watch out from using too much, because there are different agents within that hydrogen peroxide as well though. But as long as you see the color changing on that blackbeard algae, then you know you're in the right direction. It'll start changing all kinds of weird colors. Well, we can't ship receive in summer because our 5-7 days normal delay. Overnight ain't an option, and it all comes by truck. Kind of sucks, but that's the Colorado Rockies. Yeah, and there's just some like areas in the country where it just takes time. And hopefully our trucking system doesn't get all screwed up here soon either. But alright, I gotta hop off here because I gotta get these fish fed before they try jumping out and eating me, especially these guys. They go crazy if they don't get fed. But you guys have been absolutely awesome. Thank you all for the super awesome support. I can never thank you guys enough. And hopefully I helped you some. And I hope that you all have a great weekend. And hopefully I'll see you next Friday. So till next time, everybody, peace. Have a great one. And huge shout out to Aquarium Co-op. My God, Corey and Aquarium Co-op, all you guys are awesome. Thank you. And Cat Pal, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, thanks, I actually have a lower sandy area near the front where they get fed, but they love spending most of the time there. Well, yeah, that food spot will be their favorite, that's for sure. But yes, hopefully that helps you, and thank you, Cat, I appreciate it. Till next time, everybody, peace. Have a good one.